wanted to answer a question I get asked a lot, which is how to apply nail forms when you already have length on your natural nail. This topic actually applies to all kinds of situations. It applies to people who have ski jump nails. It applies to people who have nails that actually curve over the end of their finger, sometimes referred to as eggshell nails. For those of you that don't know what ski jump means like your natural nail kind of grows in an upward angle. It looks just like an Olympic ski jump, and the longer the nail is, the more that it grows upwards. I kind of wanted to address how we're going to handle situations like that, even though I don't have ski jump nails. And I also wanted to address the topic of how do you put on a nail form when you have natural length, and answer all of those questions, because I think those are some of the things that a lot of people don't understand when they first get into nail forms. So let's get to it. So I actually just took off the color that I had on my nails. I haven't done anything to my nails other than remove the color. You can see that I've still got my gel overlay on here, and depending on the product I used, because I use different ones every time I do my nails practically for video purpose and other things, you'll notice that sometimes it looks like milky, sometimes it looks clear, sometimes it looks milky. This is not actual lifting. This is just the gel looking kind of milky on there, if you guys are curious. And I've gone through, what lifting looks like and how to remove that. But in today's video, what I wanted to talk about is natural nail curvature, which my nails are ugly right now, but this is good because this is what reality looks like when you get it. Okay. So my nails are probably going on 3 weeks old. I haven't done a single thing to them. I haven't even cleaned them up with any of my bits that I normally use or anything. Literally, you guys are seeing just Liz removed her brown color, and now this is what's left over. And you can see that my natural nail curvature is really pretty flat. Most people's natural nail curvature is not very pinched, and depending on the finger, you might have a slightly flatter finger than others. So I wanted to kind of talk about how do we apply forms that not only fit to the nail that we already have, that we're working with, but also how do we fit forms and make sure that we're creating the nail that we want to create. Now I'm just going to grab one of the forms that I have handy. You can use any nail form you like. I really like all three of these. I have Coquest forms, La Elegance forms, and Accents forms, and I like all of them. Some of them fit certain of my fingers better than others. So you can see on my thumb, if I just put this on here really quick, and what I'm doing is I'm just taking that center black line, pretty well centering it with my finger, and then I'm just going to keep that line centered as I close the nail form, and I'm just going to close the tip just so I have this kind of adhered on my finger, okay? Now, you'll notice that I have a natural gap here, okay? And I've addressed this in other videos, so if you don't want to go down the nail form path again with me, that's totally fine, okay? But on this finger, if I just put it up like this, I've got a gap. And on my thumb, because my thumb is a little bit wider than the actual opening of the nail form, you can see I have a gap here where the nail form really doesn't line up with my sidewall very well. And it also kind of pokes out. You can see right here, the nail form paper has to go around my finger. And this is pretty normal. And the longer of a natural nail that you have, the more that your natural nail is going to have kind of different curves to it. So when natural nails grow out, they aren't always perfectly uniform. Sometimes they twist to one side. So sometimes you might have, like on this nail, I have a gap on this side, but I don't have a gap really on this side. And that just shows me that this side of my inner side of my thumb, which often gets used, to pry things open or to grab things or whatever, over time, usually our natural nail will kind of go in that way. It's almost like our natural nails get trained to grow in a specific direction based on pressures and lots of different factors. So when we put on nail forms, ideally we don't want to have this much nail length. And I'm just going to put this form on a different finger to kind of show you. Okay, so here I have it on my ring finger. And on my ring finger, it fits pretty well, but you can see that even though I'm trying to put this up in line with the angle of nail that I want to create, there's still a gap on the free edge and there's some gaps on the side. Now, thicker gels are going to cover that, and that's the whole idea behind using a thicker builder gel when we actually extend the natural nail. The thicker the gel, the less it's going to run in between the nail form and the finger, and you can see that I do have, quite a gap there. And for those of you that are getting into nail forms for the first time, you are going to have gaps that you have to address. Now, I've shown in my previous nail form videos how to cut notches in order to help with that, and how to also pinch the nail form closed so that we're taking advantage of as much of that C curvature as we can create underneath the nail form, okay? So you can see my natural nail actually kind of grows, I like to think of it as like a turtle shell. My natural nails have quite a high apex in the center, but they kind of almost spoon downwards, and you can kind of see like on this one what I'm talking about. It's almost like it curves down. It doesn't actually just stay straight, or like on this one you can see that too. I've almost got like a turtle shell as far as the way that my nails, they start out higher at the cuticle area, and by the time they leave my free edge, they're lower. They're not straight, they don't go up, but they kind of go down. And so a lot of times when I am trying to extend my natural nails, if I line up the nail form perfectly with my natural nail, the tip of my nail form is actually going to be pointing even further down. And the longer that I make my nail, the more that nail is going to look more like a talon, where it's going to go downward instead of stay straight. So the biggest recommendation I can give you guys is to shorten your natural nails before you put nail forms on. Now, some of you are probably thinking, wait, Liz, I want my natural nail length. I just want to extend it, or I want to, keep my natural nails because I like the proof that these are my real nails. And I've had that question asked to me a bazillion times. If you want to keep your natural nail length, then just do overlays, but realize that your natural nail over time is going to affect the shape of your overlay. Even if you're kind of adjusting things here and there, you are going to have an overlay that reflects your natural nail shape. If you do extensions, you're going to take the natural nail shape completely out of the equation, including the natural nail length, and you're going to completely artificially create the elevation of the nail as far as the tip is concerned. You're going to create the C curvature. You're going to create everything from scratch. So you kind of have to make that determination for yourself, what kind of nail that you want to have. Do you want to have a natural nail with just a product overlay on top? Or do you want to actually get rid of the natural factor and create the nails that you want? Ski jump nails point upwards when they grow. So if this is my cuticle area here, and here's my finger, and here's my nail bed. Okay, this is a terrible drawing, but you can get the idea. Ski jump nails grow in an upward direction. The longer they grow, the more that they actually start to point upwards. So how do we get rid of this? Well, we want to basically shorten the nail so that all we're dealing with is essentially this amount of curvature. This amount of curvature is a lot easier to camouflage than this is. If I put my nail form on a nail that's growing that far upwards, it's going to be pretty drastic. So let me just redraw this really quick for you guys. Okay, so here's my finger. Now, if I'm trying to put a nail form on a finger like this, I'm literally going to have to put a nail form essentially like this. Okay, and here's like my butterfly form that's adhered to my finger, okay? All right, and this whole space, I have to fill in with product. So you can imagine I'm going to have to try and camouflage this by putting enough product on here to get that to blend when I extend the nail. And sometimes even the ski jump nail will poke through the surface of the gel. So if I go back to my original drawing where I shorten off the natural length, when I put the extension on, and again, this is going to be the way I want the nail to look, not the way that the natural nail is. And I'm just going to do my little butterfly form here, okay? I'm not going to apply the goal. Let me back up here for a second. The goal with nail forms is not to create an extension of the nail you already have. We're not actually just putting a nail form on there to match or mimic the natural nail and then extend the length. The goal with nail forms, and even if you're thinking about plastic tips, for example, the goal with nail forms is to change and perfect what the extended length looks like. So we're going to perfect the C curvature. We're going to perfect the angle at which the nail looks as far as does it tip up, straight, or down. And so a lot of you guys get confused about nail forms because you're like, wait a minute, I'm supposed to align it with the natural nail, but then the nail that I create looks ugly. It tips down or it tips up. So I don't get it. So really what we're trying to do is we're trying to change the way that this nail looks by re-extending the length. We're going to chop off the natural length and we're going to re-extend it in the way that we want it to look. So then if I don't have that natural length anymore, I'm going to be able to camouflage right? I'm going to be able to camouflage that entire natural ski jump nail inside of a much prettier looking extension. And again, if I make the sidewalls straight for y'all, right? That looks prettier. Okay, so imagine that all my pink is my builder gel. I've created my apex, which looks really pretty. I've created my artificial length, whether it be a stiletto or whatever you want. But you can see that I'm able to actually embed that ski jump nail inside of the product. And I'm able to make it look like that person never had ski jump nails to begin with. But in order to do that, we have to actually have the nail form pointing straight out. We are going to have some kind of gap between the natural nail and the nail form. We're going to use a thicker product to go over that area to blend the two so we don't get a whole bunch of runny product going underneath the free edge of the ski jump nail. And it's going to be a lot better than trying to camouflage a natural nail that we left all of the natural length on. In the case of my nails kind of look like a perfect turtle shell. And actually, sometimes my cuticle area is a little bit higher. It might actually look a little bit more like this. Okay, so my natural nails kind of grow like that. And so sometimes also for me, if I let my natural length grow substantially, like out to here, I have kind of these nails that are creating a problem because they're starting to point downwards. So in my case, I also want to chop off my natural length so that I'm able to get rid of this downward trajectory of my free edge. And then instead of having to, like this guy, where I'm having to create an apex that doesn't exist on the person's natural nail, in a case like mine, which are kind of like, they're not really eggshell nails. They're not really the kind that curve around your finger because some of them are really bad. They curve all the way down. But mine definitely do have more of a natural apex to them, but they do kind of have this like turtle shell shape to them. So if I chop that off, basically what I'm going to do is use my natural apex. I'm going to obviously reinforce it with additional product. And then I'm going to actually sometimes even lift the tip of my extension so it looks perfectly straight. So you can see that if I had left the natural length, I would have had to put a form underneath this guy down here, which means that my extension would be pointing downward. Okay? Can you guys see how that changes everything when you have natural length involved? So realistically, anytime you're going to use nail forms, I highly recommend, unless you're doing it for the purposes of a nail repair, which means someone just broke off the corner, you're just going to put the nail form to mimic that area and fix it. In most cases, you are going to be removing the natural length completely, removing all factors of what the natural nail is doing, and then we're going to completely replace all of that with artificial product. Similar to, I would probably make this akin to an analogy because you guys know I love analogies, but my analogy would be like when you get veneers put on, the dentist doesn't actually just take your natural teeth, especially if you have crooked teeth, he doesn't just take your natural teeth and put stuff over the top to make them smooth because obviously it would be super thick and it would, the natural teeth shape would affect all of that stuff. They grind your teeth down into little nubbins and then they put that stuff over the top and actually perfect it with artificial product. It's the same idea with this. We're trying to get rid of any crookedness. We want to get rid of the crookedness, make it like literally not an issue in any of this at all. And then we're going to replace all of that with artificial product. Okay, so if that is the way I could explain to you the reason why we do nail forms and the reason why we do extensions and why you have to remove the natural length before you do nail forms and extensions, that would be it. We're trying to get rid of the natural effect of whatever shape or curvature exists, and we're going to perfect it. Now, you guys probably remember that when I did my video on nail forms and extensions, we also talked about C curvature and the importance of that. And since I have pretty normal nails as far as, run of the mill as far as what I've seen. I mean, my nails look pretty run of the mill compared to a lot of clients I've worked on. Natural nail curvature usually isn't very curved. It's usually kind of just flat. But as you recall, the other thing, as I throw stuff, the other thing that we tried to do, and I'm going to do it backwards. Don't look at the way I'm doing this. I'm just going to do this for a demonstration purpose. The other thing we do is we like to pinch the natural nail when we're creating the extension so that we're able to just get slightly more C curvature. And again, the C curvature gets exaggerated by the extension. The longer it is, the more of a kind of straw or pipe look it has to it. And the more that C curve is not only going to create strength, but it's going to create beauty and it's going to you know, make the nail look nicer than if it was just a big flat duckbill, okay? So you can see that if I didn't pinch my other fingers, they would be relatively flat. Just with a slight pinch on my natural nail when I'm creating the extensions, I'm going to get a much nicer C-curve on that particular finger. Okay, so if I'm going to do this for real, I'll show you guys exactly what I would do. Now, you can use a file to do this. You can file the length, which is totally fine. There's nothing wrong with filing it down. I often do file just because I already have a file dedicated to the client that I'm working on, so I can just quickly file them down. If the nails are really long, the only reason why I don't always opt for nail clippers is because nail clippers tend to smash the nail. So nail clippers tend to like kind of smash the nail, and sometimes depending on if you have an overlay on it or how long the natural nail is, nail clippers can actually crush the nail and create a break off point beyond where you want it to be. So that's why I often opt for a nail file instead, because I can control exactly the shape and length that I'm creating, and I'm gonna have to file the nail anyway to get rid of the corners. But if they're super long, then you can do a little bit with clippers and a little bit with a file, and then you're gonna be able to do all of that. Okay, so I'm just gonna take a little bit of the length off with my clippers, and so you can see what I mean when it just snaps off like that. And that's just because I already have gel on my nails, and if your nails are thicker or more dry, then they're going to just snap off. And you can see what I mean. I'm gonna have to file the nail anyway to create that more rounded shape before I put my nail form on. The other big thing that we want to get rid of before we put nail forms on is we want to get rid of corners. Corners are going to dent into your nail form, and they're going to cause problems. And they're also going to prevent you from being able to tip the form up or down depending on what you need to adjust for that particular client. So I'm just going to take my nail form. Again, you can file in one direction if you want to, but it really, in this case, doesn't make a difference because I'm going to extend my nails anyway, and my natural nail is not going to be exposed. So I'm just going to gently round out the corners. Okay, so I took off that corner and I blended it. I made sure I blended it back to my real sidewall. And then I'm just going to create a nice, soft, rounded shape so that I don't have any harsh corners that are going to, you know, push into the nail form or cause any problems. I do recommend that you leave a teeny bit of a white free edge for the nail form, because if you have nothing, you're going to be trying to put the nail form right up against the hyponychium, which is going to also be a little bit more difficult to do. All right, so let me dust off my hand really quick. And I'm not even going to prep my nail or anything. I'm going to grab a different nail form just to show you a different style. Okay, so I'm going to just, again, center that line. This is a little bit more difficult to do on camera because I can't do it the way I would normally do it, but that's okay. I'm just going to keep that line centered as I close it. These ones have a little tab that you can close since they're kind of low profile. And you can see that when I put that on, it's naturally tipping downward, which I don't want. I basically want this tip to be lined up with my back cuticle area. And so I'm just going to adjust this so that that has a nicer angle to it. Can you see that if I extended it all the way out here, it would create a nice kind of straight transition between my cuticle area and my free edge. And once you're kind of happy with that angle, you can secure it a little bit more. Okay. And then I am going to have gaps, but I'm still going to cut some notches. And if you guys do want to get it even closer here on the sides, I actually like having a gap here on the corners because I want to be able to pinch my products and I don't want my corners poking into my nail form. But as I've shown in previous videos, you can notch out the hyponychium area. Just put a little triangle in the paper, which will help you fit it closer to the finger. And then you can also cut notches on the sides. And you want to do this basically right around where the side walls of the natural nail are. All right, so now if I put that back up on my finger. So now that I put that hyponychium notch, you guys can see I can push it back even closer to my finger. I'm going to check the angle from the side. The hyponychium notch also is really nice because it allows me to tip the form up without it causing pain or discomfort on my hyponychium. And then I'm also just going to flick my little notches out here. And the goal with these is that I just want to create a nice barrel of paper. I don't want any type of bulk on the sides. I basically want to transition product directly from my nail onto the nail form without anything else causing any other complications, okay? So you can see that I actually have a pretty snug fit underneath my natural nail. Now that I shortened my natural nail, I'm able to get that right up underneath, even though I'm having to tip the tip of my nail form up to get it in line with my cuticle area of my nail form, okay? And I'm not worried about gaps like this, and I hope you guys don't worry about this either, because if I'm using a thicker product like I like to use for extending, and I've shown you guys thicker builder gels and stuff on my channel, then I'm going to use a thicker gel to cover from my natural nail out onto the nail form, and that's not even going to probably even touch my skin while it's being applied. The thicker the product, the better it is for using these on nail forms, and it doesn't move around at all. You're able to apply the product exactly where you want it. And so that's exactly what it's going to look like. So I hope that helps address a little bit more about this conversation of ski jump nails and trying to understand, you know, how do I put a nail form on if my nail is going upwards? Well, if your nail grows upwards, you're not going to put your nail form right up underneath your natural nail. Otherwise, you would end up with a nail that looks like that, right? So that's the whole idea behind shortening the natural nail length, getting rid of the natural factor, and it's also going to give you a nice clean appearance underneath your nails. As you guys can see from my, my nails that have grown out, I mean, natural nails, they are underneath, but they don't always look so nice. I mean, natural nails have like a yellowy, milky look to them. They get dirty. You can see skin. You can see debris. I mean, I actually much prefer having a shorter natural length and then not having all of this kind of natural, natural creamy yellow, natural nail look underneath my extensions. I do, grow out my natural nails just like everybody does. But anytime I'm going to extend my nails and create a new set of nails, I always shorten my natural nails down as much as possible before I extend them, just to get rid of that whole entire thing. Okay. So thanks for tuning in, guys. If you guys have any more questions about, applying forms, please comment below this video. I want to make sure that the form conversation is clear and that you guys understand what the goal is. Obviously, online, it's very difficult to get that feel for exactly how to apply the nail form. But I think, honestly, if you guys are able to watch my previous video on nail forms, watch my extension videos where I show you extension start to finish, and also revisiting this conversation about ski jumps and about natural nail length and should you shorten your natural nails or how do you keep your natural nail length, the short answer, like I said earlier, is if you're going to be doing extensions with nail forms, get rid of the natural nail length. It's going to cause more problems than benefits. And if you want to have your natural nails, then just stick with overlays, backfill them, let them grow out naturally, and just keep whatever, the natural nail shape and curvature and height and, angle that you have. And I mean, that'll work for you. But I like shortening all the nails all the way down, getting rid of the natural nail factor, getting rid of corners, and then I'm able to pinch nails. I'm able to get the nail form on at the angle at which I want it to be, and I'm able to perfect the extension as much as humanly possible and give someone something that they weren't given naturally. So anyway, thanks guys. I'll see you guys next week with another great video. Bye.